Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is November the 12th, 2025. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Happy hump day. Hopefully you humped and didn't get humped on this fine Wednesday. As for me, I did the best I could. I managed. But for real though, the day was good. The vibes at work definitely got hectic. I guess we'll go ahead and get into it. So I get into work. It's pretty much, it's still peak. We're still doing the peak things. We're halfway through the week, but I've noticed that there's been a bit of an energy shift amongst the higher ups, the topsiders, if you will, a bit of management. They're like coming around and like snooping and like they keep having this like running question of like, well, how much PSI? Like, what's the pressure gauge looking like for the crusher, for the trash compactor? And like, I always am annoyed by this question because they think of the pressure gauge as like a health bar or like the full meter. Like if this is at that certain level, then it's gonna be filled, and like we need to track that and keep up with it. Like that's gonna help them out. It really fucking doesn't. At the end of the day, if we are at capacity, like in terms of like we're doing a lot of numbers, like we get a lot of business flowing around, I'm gonna get a lot of cardboard downstairs. We're then going to take all that cardboard and fill up the trash compactor with it. And guess what? Anywhere from around 2 o'clock to about 4 o'clock, it's gonna get filled. It's just like clockwork. Like I found this rhythm to happen every single year without fail. There's no thing you can do about it unless you want to get extra pickups, which they don't want to do because that costs them, quote unquote, too much money. It's like, do it or don't. I don't care, man. But knowing what the pressure gauge is at every other hour is not going to help you. And also, my main grievance with this is like I can tell them, they can see a number, and then literally 30 minutes later, that number will drastically change, and we've done the same pace of work. But I think that they like to see, if they think that if they see the number and it's lower, they're gonna be like, I wonder, they're probably not moving fast enough. And it's just very much that energy where they're trying to like gauge your productivity via this, and I think that that's my biggest gripe about that. But it is what it is. We move, we mash. I'm really trying not to let this kind of energy bother me. Just do my job, keep my head down, get through another peak. That's my goal. Let's knock on wood for that. So, work was overall work. We didn't get a treat today, so boo that. Tomatoes for that. But let's see. Post work, we went to the gym, and I look as I'm going into the gym, and I see there's 3 pips, which is really bad news. Like that means that I'm in for a busy workout session, and I'm not gonna probably get much done. So, I'm clenching my teeth and my butthole. I'm ready. I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to fight for a bench, whatever it takes. No, I get in there. I see it is pretty busy. There was no Smith machine available. There were some free weights again, so we just say, okay, we're gonna double down on that. We're gonna do our 2, like I said, those what I call circuit sets. Those went well, no problems. And then I noticed that I had a homie on a Smith machine, and I noticed that they popped off, and I was like, okay, so they're not on it anymore, so I'm gonna go ahead and get on it. And it worked out. So W homie, thank you. That kind of worked out there. So I just decided to do that instead of doing any filler workouts. And I think I did that, and I did some I forget what they're called, but crunches, where you do the stomach crunches. I forget what the actual piece of equipment is called, but did some stomach crunches, did some chest dips, cardio, and then everything was good. That was my workout. So overall, we turned a tragedy into a bit of a triumph. Because generally, if I get on my Smith machine and the free weights, I'm happy. Everything else kind of feels like filler work, and it's not that big a deal, so we'll take it. Let's see, and then that was more or less the day. We covered all the ground. So yeah, let's go ahead and do our startup, and let's get into some news. I will say a wholesome part of the day from work. I know I only talked about the bad, but one of the one of the one of my coworkers in maintenance who I often have I wouldn't say tiffs with, because like I said, I just let them talk and go on about my fucking business. It doesn't matter. They had brought in some chili that they made, and we were just waxing about the beauties of chili, and I've often found that whether or not like I might agree with the motherfucker on some morals or politics, whatever the fuck, if we're talking about food, if we can generally get along. Also, then dare I say, a little bit of the drugs. I often find you can find certain path lines, places where it's like, oh, okay, you're a human being, I'm a human being, we can chop about this, we can talk about this, like we all understand X or Y. In this situation, we all like a good spicy chili, or at least I do, and seems like they do too, but not maybe as much as myself. But even then, we also talked about just like, especially from me and my perspective, the older I get, the less I need this to be the spiciest thing I've ever eaten. You know what I mean? I want it to taste good. I want it to be flavorful. I want the spicy, factor to be a thing. I want to notice that, but I don't need this to be a sport. You know what I mean? So, anyway. Alrighty, macaroons. Let's get started. From ABC News. Turkish military plane. Oh, I cannot speak. Turkish military plane crash in Georgia kills all 20 on board. All 20 personnel on board a Turkish military cargo plane that crashed in Georgia were killed. Turkey's defense minister announced on Wednesday. The C-130 plane was flying from Ganja, Azerbaijan to Turkey when it crashed in Georgia's Singnai municipality, close to the Azerbaijani border, on Tuesday. The cause of the crash is being investigated. Now, I have to take a pause, maybe for levity's sake here. Ganja Bajan sounds so fucking cool. I'm sorry. Like, I immediately had to Google it, and it does look like actually a sick place to visit. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I would not hate a visit to Ganja, Azerbaijan. I mean, granted, I don't know much about any kind of political happenings or things going on in the area, but I don't know. A name like that, what could go wrong? No, let me stop. Anyway, the military personnel were part of a unit that had traveled to Azerbaijan to take part in that country's Victory Day celebrations on Saturday. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said. The event marked Azerbaijan's 2020 military success over Armenia for control of the Karabakh region, known internationally as Nagorno-Karabakh, a conflict that has lasted nearly 4 years. Excuse me. Oh boy. The 46-member Turkish accident investigation team reached the crash site and was inspecting the wreckage of the plane in coordination with Georgian authorities. Erdogan said the plane's flight data recorder has been recovered, and inspections were underway to determine the cause of the crash. Authorities have so far recovered the remains of 19 of the victims, and efforts were continuing to locate one other body. Now we're just gonna crash kind of to the end. That's a poor choice of words. I'm sorry. We're gonna go to the end, the highlighted portion. We don't have any clues or any kind of lead into what caused this, but it is worth noting that the plane was manufactured in 1968 and initially served in Saudi Arabia. It was added to the Turkish Armed Forces inventory in 2010, Sasku reported. Excuse me. Got a bit of a frog in my throat. All right. Let's move on to our next story from CNN. Actually, let me take a water break. Ooh, I will say this cold weather never feels good on the throat. Never helps for talking. And then also, I'm literally the inside of my nostril is getting chapped. Oh, so frustrating. But it is what it is. Living in the cold heart of Ohio. Am I right? All right. Dozens of Israeli settlers launched arson attack in West Bank as attacks against Palestinians surge. Dozens of Israeli settlers launched an arson attack on an agricultural area in the occupied West Bank Tuesday evening, according to Palestinian activists in the area, marking the latest such attack in what has been seen as a surge of settler violence. The attack took place in the town of Bet Lead, east of Tulkrum, damaging the Deir Sharaf Bedouin village and Al Juwindi dairy factory. Videos show and residents told CNN. Footage obtained by CNN shows smoke engulfing the area, with Palestinian women heard shouting in the background and men carrying extinguishers and water buckets scrambling to put out the fires. Videos show torched trucks, tents, and metal sheds and smashed car windows. Residents said Palestinian civil defense and firefighters arrived at the scene about an hour after the fire started. Another video filmed by a Palestinian resident shows the settlers coming down a hill toward the Bedouin village. This attack is the latest in a surge of settler violence against Palestinians in the West Bank, which has been taking place on a near daily basis since mid-October. A United Nations report released Friday alleges that Israeli settlers launched at least 264 attacks in October, the largest since the UN began tracking the incidents in 2006, with this year's olive harvest season marred by extreme violence. CCTV footage of the arson attack obtained by CNN then shows the settlers attacking the dairy factory, brandishing clubs and setting fire to parked vehicles. One of the vehicles, a cargo truck bearing the dairy factory's logo, appears to be completely torched, with a thick cloud of black smoke rising from it. The Palestinian Economy Ministry on Wednesday called on the international community to take action to stop the attacks. In Tuesday's incident, perpetrators set fire to 4 trucks loaded with products from Al Juwindi and smashed windows and other property. A senior official from the Israel Defense Force, or IDF, condemned the violence. The reality in which anarchist youth, let me say this correctly. The reality in which anarchist fringe youth act violently against innocent civilians and against security forces is unacceptable and extremely serious, Central Command Chief Major General Avi Bluth said in a statement shared by the IDF on Wednesday. It must be dealt with firmly. Now I want to stop here and dissect a couple of words here. They say anarchist fringe youth. It is not just some fringe youth. It's not just some young hooligans wilding out. That might be a core group here, but this is led by a coalition of, well thought out, planning by Israelis. They are coming here with the full intent of banging up, destroying property, banging up, beating up people, harassing constantly, and in some situations even killing people to try to get them to get off of this land so that they can take it. And then they will make an outpost outside of the area. They'll make an outpost and push that in and then eventually take over. This is a sprawling project that has been going on for years. And also, it must be dealt with firmly. Yeah, I would agree with that statement, but that is not as what's being done. And more times than not, it is being facilitated by the IDF. They are there. They are watching it happen. They are letting it happen. When you tell them that it's happening, they literally will then just shoot off, and then they can hear the fucking shit happening behind them, but they do not come back. They do not fucking enforce any kind of law and order unless the Palestinian defense actually gets to a point where, oh, okay, they're fighting back. Okay, then we got to stop that. You get detained. You get arrested. So... And I think another core thing here that gets mentioned sometimes by some, outlets, other times not. I do not think that the IDF does anything here unless the settlers are actually attacking the IDF themselves, which they did in this situation. They attacked, IDF personnel. They attacked, vehicles and things like that, banged them up with their little clubs or whatever the fuck. And I think that is what stirred the ire here. The fact that these settlers are now becoming so unruly, so rabid, I don't really have another word to use there, that they are saying, no, we're attacking you too. How dare you even try to fucking stop us or not fully facilitate this? So, it has gotten so out of hand that they can't even, tell these motherfuckers to calm down, back off. And not to mention, too, this is getting a lot of international, coverage. I think especially with, the quote unquote ceasefire, and there's less violence, less focus on Gaza right now. I think more people are turning back on an eye on what's going on in West Bank. And mind you, shit has been constant. It has been kinetic. I did hear a story just mentioning, talking about what has been happening with these olive harvests of like same kind of settler raid. They come through and they start banging on people. Literally, there's a person who's a journalist, announces they're a journalist, and it's like, hey man, I'm an American journalist. What are you doing? They don't fucking care. They try to bang him up, beat him up. And at one point, everyone has like kind of gotten to a point where they're like in somewhat some sort of safety. But there was an old lady who was like caught out, and literally a mass settler comes, hits her, knocks her down, and then hits her, I believe, 2 more times on the head. Like, what are we doing here? Where is the humanity here? And once again, you're going to try to say, oh, this is just a bunch of this is just some fringe youth. No, this is a coordinated effort. This has been happening for days and days and days, on years now. Like, this isn't just some isolated issue. He continued, it was unacceptable for lawbreakers to harm property and innocent civilians while diverting the IDF's focus away from its mission of security and counterterrorism. Gilead Kariv, an Israeli lawmaker from the left-wing Democrats Party, decried the settler attack on X. Their goal is to ignite a third intifada that will bring the IDF to operate in a way reminiscent of the operation in Gaza. This move will cost the lives of hundreds of Israel soldiers and civilians and thousands of Palestinians, he said. The IDF said it dispatched its soldiers to the area following a report of dozens of masked Israeli civilians who attacked Palestinians and set fire to the property in the area. During the incident, 4 Palestinians were injured and evacuated for medical treatment. Security forces operated to disperse the confrontation using riot dispersal means and apprehended several Israeli civilians. The IDF said in a statement, the settlers also attacked the soldiers and damaged an Israeli military vehicle, the IDF said. The Israel police said it had arrested 4 Israeli suspects and transferred them for questioning following the extreme violence. Police investigators, together with security forces, are currently collecting evidence at the scene, including documentation, witness statements, and forensic findings, it added. The arson attack is the latest in what has become an increasingly violent period in the West Bank during the olive harvest. On Saturday, at least 10 people were injured in an attack on the village of Beitia, while Palestinian farmers were harvesting olives, including 3 medics, 4 journalists, and 3 activists, according to Israeli activist Jonathan Polak, who was present and himself injured, which I believe, that is the story I was referencing earlier. Activist Oded Yedea, an Israeli photographer and administrator of the Mashar School of Art in Tel Aviv, had to be hospitalized after he was badly beaten, according to Polak. Images obtained by CNN show Yedea's entire face and torso bloodied, with a white cloth wrapped around his head. Polak told CNN Yedea suffered fractures to the cheekbone and jaw. The IDF told CNN in a statement Saturday that they were aware of the incident and had dispatched soldiers to an area around Yevitar, an Israeli outpost nearby, following a report of confrontation between Israeli and civilians and Palestinians. In the nearby village of Burin, Israeli and foreign activists were injured, including an off-duty Israeli army reservist, Yuval Ben Ari. In a phone interview with CNN, Ben Ari said seeing videos of Palestinians being brutally beaten by settlers every day compelled him to go out and support them. I think it's important for Israelis to get out of bed and out of the house and do some real activism instead of just liking content on Facebook or retweeting an article, he said. He was standing alongside 7 Israeli activists on a Palestinian farm picking olives early Saturday morning when he saw at least 20 masked settlers come down the hill brandishing clubs and bats. He said he knew they were about to terrorize the entire area. I stood in front of them and said, I asked you not to do it. You don't want to do it. he said, before revealing to them that he was a reservist. But that didn't stop the attack, he said, and he suffered a head injury and a minor concussion that required hospitalization. Now, from what I've kind of heard, because I think I heard Pollock, he talked, it might have been on Chapel Trap House. I might be getting that person wrong. But essentially, just saying that it's like, look, at one point, it did work where you said, hey, I'm an American, especially I'm an American press. That would stop. Like that would at least get them to be like, whoa, okay, maybe we won't go as hard here. You know, there may be some pause. But in this moment, I said that shit, they were unfazed. They did not care. It did not matter to them. It was the fact that I am not on their side. I am against them. So therefore, I am about to be a victim. There was just nothing he could do. He just had to run at that point. Which is crazy because that means that they know that this is going to be recorded. This is going to be talked about. And they don't care. They do not care. And if you ask some of these people in interviews, they will proudly say what they are doing. They feel like they are frontiersmen. They are taking back what is theirs biblically. I'll put that in fucking quotations. Like they're taking their land back. That's the way they feel. They feel more passionately about the land in West Bank than they do about the land in Gaza. So they're like, no. What I'm doing is a noble endeavor. I should be doing this. I should be bashing old women across the head. Like, that is a wild way to think. That is a wild way to live and think that you're justified in doing so, that everything you're doing, the ends are going to be justified. And then also, I'm kind of skimming further ahead here, or there's not much left. The idea that you get to do this shit and then like, okay, they apprehend you, they detain you maybe, and there's nothing. You're released. Most of the people are released that we've talked about that have been apprehended by the IDF. So there's going to be nothing that happens to these people. So yeah, I mean, this shit is worth talking about. I know this isn't the first time we've talked about, stories out of West Bank. But yeah, I mean, the fact that this is ratcheting up, it's not slowing down. That is a telling thing. It's an important thing. I feel like that, we got to keep talking about. I mean, I know that that's not much. It doesn't mean much more than the retweets or whatever, but at least it's something. I don't know. Anyway, let's go ahead and move along. Got, bit of an update. I guess also it's worth mentioning too. I know we kind of keep talking about the government shutdown, but the House did reconvene, and it looks like at least on paper, the government shutdown is officially over. I know it's got to go to Trump. I'm sure he's signing that. I know we mentioned that. Yada. The whole rigmarole is happening. That then also means that like as we turn things back on, slowly but surely we'll get back on track, and then we'll count the cost of what this whole shutdown, cost us in terms of like an actual price tag. But that's for a later time. Anyway, a bit of, I don't know what the word is, but now that House is back in order, they can get back to work. We can actually get back to, releasing some stuff that's related to Epstein. So that is this story right here. From the Associated Press, Epstein email says Trump knew about the girls as White House calls its release a Democratic smear. Jeffrey Epstein wrote into a 2019 email to a journalist that Donald Trump knew about the girls, according to documents made public Wednesday. But what he knew and whether it pertained to the sex offender's crimes is unclear. The White House quickly accused Democrats of selectively leaking the emails to smear the president. Democrats on the House Oversight Committee released 3 emails referencing Trump, including one Epstein wrote in 2011, in which he told confidant Ghislaine Maxwell that Trump had spent hours at Epstein's house with a sex trafficking victim. The disclosures seem designed to raise new questions about Trump's friendship with Epstein and about what knowledge he may have had regarding regarding what prosecutors call a years-long effort by Epstein to exploit underage girls. The Republican businessman turned politician has consistently denied any knowledge of Epstein's crimes and has said he ended their relationship years ago. The version of the 2011 email released by the Democrats redacted the name of the victim, but Republicans on the committee later said it was Virginia Joffrey, who accused Epstein of arranging for her to have sexual encounters with a number of his rich and powerful friends. Epstein took his own life in a New York jail in 2019 while awaiting trial on federal charges. The emails were made public Wednesday The emails made public Wednesday are part of a batch of 23,000 documents provided by Epstein estate to the Oversight Committee. Joffrey said Trump couldn't have been friendlier. Joffrey, who died earlier this year, long insisted that Trump was not among the men who had victimized her. In a court disposition, she said under oath that she didn't believe Trump had any knowledge of Epstein's misconduct with underage girls. And in her recently released memoir, she described meeting Trump only once when she worked as a spa attendant at his Mar-a-Lago club in Palm Beach, Florida, and did not accuse him of wrongdoing. Joffrey wrote that she was introduced to Trump by her father, who also worked at the club. She described Trump as friendly and said he offered to help get her babysitting jobs with parents at the club. Trump couldn't have been friendlier, Joffrey wrote. Other members of the Epstein household staff also said in sworn depositions that while Trump did not stop by Epstein's house, they didn't see him engage in any inappropriate conduct. Republicans say the emails released to tarnish Trump. White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt said Democrats selectively leaked emails to create a fake narrative to smear President Trump. Trump, writing on his Truth Social platform, said Democrats are trying to bring up the Jeffrey Epstein hoax again because they'll do anything at all to deflect on how badly they've done on the government shutdown and so many other subjects. There should be no deflections to Epstein or anything else, and any Republicans involved should be focused only on opening up our country and fixing the massive damage caused by the Democrats, Trump wrote. In July, Trump said he had banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago because his one-time friend was taking people who worked for me, including Joffrey. The women, he said, were taken out of the spa, hired by him, in other words, gone. I said, listen, we don't want you taking our people, Trump told reporters. Asked if Joffrey was one of the employees poached by Epstein, the president demurred, but then said Epstein stole her. Shortly after Democrats released the Trump-related emails, committee Republicans countered by disclosing what they said was an additional 20,000 pages of documents from Epstein's estate. Among them were a trove of emails written over several years by Epstein, including many where he commented, often unfavorably, on Trump's rise in politics and corresponded with journalists. Emails revive questions about Trump's relationship with Epstein. I also hate how this article is broken up because it's like that's a title for this section and it's like not bolded. So my dumb ass is just gonna read it. Anyway, let me take a water break. I'm thirsty. All right. The release resurfaces a storyline that had shadowed Trump's presidency during the summer when the FBI and the Justice Department abruptly announced that they would not be releasing additional documents that investigators had spent weeks examining. Disappointing conspiracy theorists and online sleuths who had expected to see new revelations. In one 2019 email to journalist Michael Wolff, who has written extensively about Trump, Epstein wrote of Trump, of course he knew about the girls, as he asked Ghislaine to stop. In a April 2nd, 2011 email to Maxwell, a former Epstein girlfriend, now in prison for conspiring to engage in sex trafficking, Epstein wrote, I want you to realize that that dog hasn't barked is Trump. I hate this quote. Let me run it back again. I want you to realize that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Virginia spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. Maxwell replied the same day. I've been thinking about that. Leavitt said the person referenced in the emails is Joffrey, who had accused Britain's then Prince Andrew and other influential men of sexually exploiting her as a teenager and who died by suicide in April. Andrew, who was recently stripped of his titles and evicted from his royal residence by King Charles III after weeks of pressure to act over his relationship with Epstein, has rejected Joffrey's allegations and said he didn't recall meeting her. It wasn't clear what Epstein meant by saying that Trump was a dog that hadn't barked, but both he and Maxwell and other correspondents accused Joffrey of fabricating stories about her supposed sexual interactions with famous men. And I want to take a pause here because apparently I think in the book, in Virginia Joffrey's tell-all book, she says that Ghislaine tells her a story about how she gave a famous actor a blowjob. And apparently that actor was George Clooney. So apparently I saw that, I think, in like the New York Post, that he was pretty he's pretty cranked about it. He's pretty mad. But anyway, enough tabloid shit. Let's see here. Levitt said in a statement that Joffrey had repeatedly said President Trump was not involved in any wrongdoing whatsoever and couldn't have been friendlier to her in their limited interactions. The fact that remains that President Trump kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his club decades ago for being a creep to his female employees, including Joffrey. The statement said, these stories are nothing more than bad faith efforts to distract from President Trump's historic accomplishments, and any American with common sense sees right through this hoax and clear distraction from the government opening back up again. Messages seeking comment were left with Wolf, Maxwell's attorney, Maxwell attorney David Marcus, and representatives for Joffrey's family. Let's see. Maxwell interviewed in July by the Justice Department's second in command, repeatedly denied witnessing any sexually inappropriate interactions involving Trump. We've actually talked about this before. Essentially, she's saying, hey, I think Trump is a good guy. I've never seen him do anything wrong around women. Let's see. Joffrey came forward publicly after an initial investigation ended in an 18-month Florida jail term for Epstein, who made a secret deal to avoid federal prosecution by pleading guilty instead to a relatively minor state-level charges of soliciting prostitution. He was released in 2009. He literally got a whole sweetheart deal. But that's more historical context at this point, not really relating to the emails right now. So yeah, I mean, this was a big reveal in a way. I think just saying that, hey, we get more, at least the correspondence, I think, between Epstein and Maxwell, because it goes to show that they're kind of having this conversation, trying to plot out the future and saying, like, how can we maneuver the situation with Trump to our advantage? Like, we kind of have to, because especially if things go the way they might go and he becomes president, we need to use that more to our advantage and things don't, fall back on us. Now, in terms of that, like the whole Trump being a dog that hasn't barked, I feel like there's a lot there, and I don't know what it means. Maybe I'm just too dumb. Do they mean that, like, Trump's not going to say anything bad about us? Like, he's not going to make a move on us? Or are they saying this in regards to the victim? And I'll say the victim because, I don't know. I mean, everyone's saying, oh, this is Virginia Joffrey, but I don't know. But anyway, are they saying that it's like he's a dog that hasn't barked because he didn't do anything to the victim? I don't know. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I need a smarter mind, maybe someone who's more savvy on this fucking shit. Maybe help me out there. Or, maybe this is not for me to know. Maybe only Epstein or he was gone now. Or, Ghislaine, who is, in her own sweetheart deal. Also, apparently, kind of talking tabloids here. Apparently, there's been leaks that she's getting preferential treatment in her new prison, light work camp situation. She's even able to be able to pet dogs and read books and stuff like that. I think she's getting quote unquote special breakfasts and stuff. I guess it's all alleged, but I mean, hey, at the end of the day, she got a deal she should not have gotten. It is crazy that she just got to sit down with Todd Blanche and just blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. I think Trump's actually great, by the way. And, I don't know anything, I didn't do anything really. And then she just gets a fucking, magic carpet ride out of that prison into something much lighter. You know what I mean? She's on her Real Housewife arc now. I don't know, man. This has been a wild ride. We've been covering this shit, on and off for a while now. We had our whole Epstein summer, and it looks like it is following us into the dark winter. And so it goes. I am glad, at least to some extent, that we are still talking about this shit. Do I think that this set of emails so far has led to anything that's going to criminally implicate Trump? No, not yet, but that doesn't mean it's not out there. It doesn't mean there's not more to learn. And also, sadly, I think the thing that I hate the most is that even if we do find something, and just in the situation between Trump, Epstein, and any potential victim, right? What would get done, man? Like, it just seems like only a couple of random things might hit this guy, and that's about it. You know what I mean? Like, you might get him over the Stormy Daniel thing. You might be able to get him for, what was it? I think the Gene Carroll thing. Letitia James kind of got him. That's like a 0.5 because, we still don't know how that's going to fully resolve itself in terms of like what Trump is going to have to pay out. Are they going to do a retrial? So, like, I don't know. But I still think this is good. I'm glad that at least the House is back in session in that regard. And there's more things that we can talk about in that regard. I'm not sure if I'm going to either talk about it later on into the weekend, or I might just, kind of do that in the extra thoughts maybe section for time's sake or whatever. I don't know. We'll see. I'll keep you posted. But yeah, this felt relevant. I wanted just to read it all through. Like I said, the emails are available to read. I actually did go through at least the 3 of them, I think, I was like on the PBS and they just had them there. I'm sure you can just Google them as well. But yeah, I mean, also another thing I'll leave us with, it's so weird how Epstein talked, like, on emails. Like, how he typed is strange. Like, he used like commas as like dots and like would use them as like ellipses. He would do really bad like misspellings and like not correct them. And like maybe there's an argument for some of the older ones because you're like on a crowded BlackBerry or whatever, but like he does it post a BlackBerry. So, and not to mention, you're not always on a BlackBerry. You're sending some of this shit gotta be off of some kind of desktop, some kind of computer, right? Like, it's just weird to be that bad of a text person, in general. I think it's odd. Maybe that's something that older people do, but I mean, hell, I had an older dad and he never texted like that. He knew how to send a smiley face and just send a normal text with a period. I don't know. Anyway, I'm in the weeds about that, but like, whatever. We have one more story that I wanted to cover. It's corruption. So no one's gonna die. There's no pedophiles, at least not to my knowledge, and that's a good thing. I'll take it. So let's go ahead. Wow, man, it's crazy. I chose to do this. I choose to do this every day. All right, let's take our last break, and then we'll go ahead and close it out. Ooh. Wave it, baby. Okay. Oh, man, I'm loading. I'm sorry. From NBC News, $100 million corruption scandal rocks Ukraine and embroils top Zelensky ally. Okay. Bit of update, a bit of recap in this story. We have covered the Ukraine energy corruption scandal a bit in terms of like the investigation and all that kind of stuff and the raid on the Mendich guy. He's gonna get mentioned again, but there's more culprits at play. So I wanted to kind of just do a little bit more coverage here. Ukraine's justice minister was suspended Wednesday in an investigation into a $100 million kickback scandal in the country's energy sector that has fueled public anger and reached the heart of the country's wartime leadership. German Galushenko, which I gotta say, that's kind of a hard-ass fucking name, bro. I'm sure I'm not doing it justice here, but I feel like German Galushenko, like, that's hard. That's kind of fucking tough. Was removed from office one day after anti-corruption authorities said they exposed a scheme that allegedly involves a close associate of President Volodymyr Zelensky and an ex-deputy prime minister nicknamed Che Guevara. Che Guevara. Why do I say things the way I say them? The probe threatened a high-profile confrontation over the long-running issue of graft in Ukraine, as it battles to maintain Western support for its fight against Russia. which has battered its neighbor's energy infrastructure with waves of attacks. Zelensky said in a statement on Telegram on Wednesday that those involved cannot remain in their positions, adding, "This is a matter of trust in particular. If there are accusations, they must be answered." And it's like, I mean, that's such a tight line to try to weave here because, brother, you are connected to some of these people. Like, that was something I was kind of thinking about, since I last covered it. I'm like, bruh's hands are not clean here. Like, there are actually not many degrees of separation between you and some of these people implicated. And let's rewind it back to you trying to shut this whole fucking thing down. It looks so suspicious, dude. Like, it's not a good look, man. 5 people have been arrested and another 7 were placed under suspicion, according to a statement Tuesday from Ukraine's National Anti-Corruption Bureau, the NABU, and Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office, SAPO. The high-level criminal organization saw current and former officials and business people allegedly receive benefits and launder money through the country's state energy company, Energoatom. Ooh. Okay. Ooh, oh boy. Sorry. Among those accused of involvement is Timur Mindich, a businessman with ties to Zelensky. Sapo prosecutor Sergei Savitsky told a court hearing Tuesday. Now, we've talked a little bit about Mindich. But Savitsky said Mindich's criminal activity in the energy sector was established by him influencing Galushenko, the justice minister, who in July served as energy secretary. We talked about the connections, the Carvital 95, we mentioned that yesterday. So Galushenko has not been arrested, but he has been suspended. He says, "I will defend myself in the legal arena and prove my position," he added. His suspension was announced in a statement by Prime Minister Yulia Seredenko, who did not provide details of what exactly he had been accused of or his alleged role in the wider scheme. In a separate statement, the NABU said this criminal organization transferred funds to an unnamed former deputy prime minister of Ukraine, referred to internally as Che Guevara. Detectives said they found some $1.2 million transferred to this person, the last $500,000 of which was sent to his wife after he came under investigation. Bro, he tried to slide that shit to the side. Nah, motherfucker, we see it. We are tracking you. According to the NABU and SAPO, the corruption scheme involved forcing Energoatom's contractors to pay an illegal commission of 10 to 15% or risk losing their supplier status. So yeah, a very janky fucking game to play when you are literally in conflict with your neighbor, Russia, and, they are fucking hitting up your energy sector and people are literally living without fucking heat during winters. And meanwhile, throughout this whole time, you're making these backwards deals, these fucking back end fucking bullshits, and you're just fucking taking advantage of the moment. So yeah, I mean, fuck this shit, man. It's no good. Boo! Tomato. But I mean, yeah, I kind of said this before in the previous, war is always going to fucking play out the way it does. And in these kind of moments, people are going to do a fire sale. They're going to take advantage of whatever they fucking can. You see it here. You could wind the clock back to fucking us in Afghanistan, how we fucking played that shit out. There's so many countless examples. I don't know why I went to the Afghanistan one, but that's where my brain blasted off to. But anyway, I'll definitely keep you posted on any more that comes out of this corruption story, this graft story, or any of the stories you mentioned today. I try to do my best with that shit, But yeah, that's it. That's all I have for today. I'll try not to, talk myself into another brain fart. But yeah, if you'd like to help out, support the effort, I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/Isaiah News. Become a newsie today. Free ways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Subscribe to the YouTube, follow on TikTok, follow on Spotify, follow on Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to listen. Let's see, leave a like, leave a cool comment. Sharing is caring. All the stars are appreciated. All these things, they help boost my presence. They help boost my... Dude, I got so hoed. Spotify sent me a notification the other week. They said, hey, just so you know, amongst like creators like yourself, we think you should have this many followers. And they showed me that I should have 200 more followers than I have. And I'm like, bro, why are you sending me shit that makes me want to blow my shit off smooth? Go away. Just get out of my face. So please follow the Spotify so I feel like less of a fucking loser. God damn. But no, I mean, it really doesn't matter. None of this shit fucking matters. I'm Carl to the bullshit. I really just do this shit for the love of the game. I'd really just thank you so much for, letting me yap at you, doing my best to try to talk about some news in my fucking precious little life. I really do appreciate that so, so much. So yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.